Did you know that about 25% of the world's population does not have access to electric power? This means that 1.5 billion people, mostly in Africa and Southern Asia, have no electricity. A few weeks ago, you went on an electricity scavenger hunt in your house and thought about how hard our lives would be without electricity. Just picture it. No TV, no video games, no computer, no refrigerators, no washing machines or dryers, no lights. Wow, that would make life as we know it impossible. Then we learned about where we get our electricity from. We learned that hydropower, solar, geothermal, and wind energy are cleaner and renewable energies. And we learned that coal, oil, and natural gas are non-renewable and cause more pollution. Today, I'm going to read a story to you about it's a remarkable true story of William Kamwaba. And it's called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. From looking at this cover, and this title, what do you think this story might be about? I'm guessing you're seeing this as a wind turbine or a windmill, and he's harnessing the wind. So I'm thinking that somehow William is going to harness the wind to get some electricity. On the back it says, the true story of a boy whose great idea and perseverance lit up his home and inspired the world. Does anyone know what perseverance means? I actually think that's a word we use a lot at Pinewood. So perseverance means to keep going in spite of difficulties. So we're going to read this story about William and find out what some of the difficulties he encountered were and how he overcame those difficulties for his village. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind by William Kamwaba and Brian Mueller. Pictures by Elizabeth Zunyan. In a small village in Malawi, where people had no money for lights, nightfall came quickly and hurried poor farmers to bed. But for William, the darkness was best for dreaming. He dreamed of building things and taking them apart, like the trucks with bottle cap wheels parked under his bed, and pieces of radios that he'd cracked open and wonder, if I can hear the music, then where is the band? His grandpa's tales of magic also whispered in the pitch black of his room. Witch planes passed through the window while ghost dancers twirled around the room as if 100 men were inside their bodies. At dawn in the fields, William scanned the maze rows for magical beings, then wondered as a truck rumbled past. How does the engine make it go? Pay attention where you throw that hoe, his father shouted. You'll cut off your foot. So William seems very curious about things. He wants to know how things work and what makes things work. For all its power over dancers and flying things, magic could not bring rain. Without water, the sun rose angry each morning and scorched the fields, turning the maize into dust. Without food, Malawi began to starve. So it sounds like their village has a pretty big problem. Think about what the problem is. Yeah, they're having a drought, so there's no water, and so maize, which is a type of corn, can't grow. Soon, William's father gathered the children and said, "From now on, we eat only one meal per day. Make it last." In the evenings, they sat around the lantern and ate their handful, watching hungry people pass like spirits along the roads. So they had no electricity, but now their life is even harder because they don't have enough food. Money also disappeared with the rain. "Pepani," his father said, "I am sorry. You will have to drop out of school." Now William stood on the road and watched the lucky students pass, alone with the monster in his belly and the lump in his throat. For weeks he sulked under the mango tree, until he remembered the library down the road, a gift from the Americans. So they don't have enough money, so he can't go to school anymore. He found science books filled with brilliant pictures. With his English dictionary close by, William put together how engines moved those big trucks and how radios pulled their music from the sky. But the greatest picture of all was a machine, taller than the tallest tree, with blades like a fan. A giant pinwheel? Something to catch magic? Slowly he built the sentence. Windmills can produce electricity and pump water. He closed his eyes and saw a windmill outside his home, pulling electricity from the breeze and bringing light to the dark valley. So I think that's pretty cool that William went to the library and from books was able to learn a lot of the answers to his questions about how things work and how things run, and he learned about something new, a windmill. He saw the machine drawing cool water from the ground, sending it gushing through the thirsty fields, turning the maize tall and green. Even when farmers' prayers for rain went unanswered, this windmill was more than a machine. It was a weapon to fight hunger. Magetsi a mafifo, he whispered. I will build electric wind. In the junkyard, pieces appeared like rusted treasures in the tall grass. A tractor fan, some pipe, and bearings and bolts that required every muscle to remove. Tonga, he'd shout to the birds and spiders, holding up his prize. But as William dragged his metals home, people called out, This boy is masala. Only crazy people play with trash. What do you guys think? Do you think he has a good idea? Do you think he can do this? After many weeks, William arranged his pieces in the dirt. A broken bicycle, rusted bottle caps, and plastic pipe, even a small generator that powered a headlight on a bike. For 3 days he bolted, banged, and tinkered, while chickens squawked and dogs barked, and neighbors shook their heads saying, What's Masala doing now? Do you think you can build a windmill out of those materials? His cousin Geoffrey and best friend Gilbert soon appeared. Muli Bevaji, they greeted. Can we help with electric wind? Grab your pangas and follow me, he said, and took them into the forest. Together they swung their sharp blades into the trunks of blue gum trees. They hammered together to make the tower. Standing atop, William shouted, Bring it up, while the boys tugged and heaved. A crowd gathered below and gazed at the strange machine that now leaned and wobbled like a clumsy giraffe. Some giggled, others teased, but William waited for the wind. Do you guys have a prediction? Do you think these boys were able to build something that works? Like always, it came, first a breeze, then a gusting gale. The tower swayed, and the blades spun around. With sore hands, once slowed by hunger and darkness, William connected wires to a small bulb which flickered at first, then surged as bright as the sun. Tonga, he shouted, I have made electric wind. Look, his windmill made electricity, and it is lighting the light bulb. Watiti Wawino, a man yelled. Well done! As the doubters clapped and cheered, William knew it had just begun. Light could not fill empty bellies, but another windmill could soak the dry ground, creating food where once there was none. Magetsi Mafifo, electric wind can feed my country, William thought. And that was the strongest magic of all. So look what William did. Look at all the windmills. Look at the crops coming back. William Kumwamba was born in 1987 and grew up near the village of Wimbi, located in central Malawi. Like many people in Malawi and the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, William's father, Tyrell, was a farmer. The Kamwabas grew a kind of white sweet corn called maize, which they ate for every meal in the form of porridge called nasima. To make extra money for clothes, medicine, and other essentials, they also raised tobacco to sell in the capital city, Lilongwe. Because their only food came from the ground, any problems with the weather or changes in the price of seeds or fertilizers could cause serious problems. That's exactly what happened in 2001 and 2002. A severe drought killed most of the maize fields in Malawi, including those of William's father. Within several months, the entire country had run out of food and began to starve, a terrible event known as a famine. Eating only one meal per day, William, his parents, and his 6 sisters began losing weight. At one point, his father even went temporarily blind from hunger. The famine killed over 10,000 people in Malawi, including many in Wimbi. With no money to pay for school fees, high in Malawi, it is not free like in America, William had to drop out. But instead of sulking around, he began visiting a library that was started by the American government. There he found books on science, which he loved. William didn't speak good English, so he used dictionaries to learn the words describing the pictures that so intrigued him. One of the pictures was a windmill. The word said that windmills could produce electricity and pump water. Like most people in Malawi, William's parents had no electricity, and water could be used to feed his father's fields. Never again would they have to depend on the rain. I will build a windmill, William thought. The pieces William used to build his windmill were a tractor fan, shock absorber, and the frame of a broken bicycle, missing a wheel. For blades, he melted plastic pipe over a fire and flattened them, then carved their shape with a saw. For a generator, he used a dynamo, which is a tiny bottle-shaped device that produces electricity by turning magnets inside a coil of wire, something called electromagnetism. When the wind blew, the blades acted like pedals and spun the tire, which turned the coils inside the dynamo and produced a current. A wire from the dynamo reached down to William's room and powered a small light bulb. He was only 14 years old. Eventually, William used his windmill to charge a car battery, allowing him to power 4 light bulbs in his parents' house. But his dream of pumping water wasn't achieved until several years later when he built his green machine, which pulled water from a small well near his home and fed his mother's gardens, allowing her to grow vegetables year-round. In 2007, William was discovered by some journalists and invited to speak at the TED conference in Tanzania. He'd never been in an airplane and had never seen the internet. Many people were moved by his story and donated money to help send him back to school and eventually install a solar-powered water pump that irrigated his father's fields, forever protecting them from hunger. William is now a student at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire, here in America. He is studying to be an engineer and plans to return to Malawi to work on renewable energy for electricity and pumping water into villages. And here's a real picture of him and what he built. What a great story. I love this story. It reminds me a lot about you guys because I know that you could do great things like William did. The next thing I would like you to do is click on the words that say, Leisha Sherman posted an assignment, and click on the document on the right side of the computer screen that says your work. I'd like you to type the answers to 2 questions today. First, I want you to tell me how William persevered. That's that new word that we learned. Perseverance is to keep going in spite of difficulties. So describe, how was William persevering in this story? Then on page 24, I read to you, William says, I have made electric wind. How do you think William's windmill could light a light bulb? What do you think was happening inside his windmill? I just want you to do your best. I know you don't probably understand completely how that works yet, because we're going to learn a lot more about how a wind turbine works, but I'd like you just to write down your ideas of what you think was happening to make that light bulb light. And that's all you have to turn in to me today. But the other thing I want you to think about is on Wednesday, we're going to celebrate Earth Day. And that's a great time for you guys to be thinking about what you can do to make a difference, the way that William made a difference for his village. So I want you to think about something that you could do to help our planet. And on Wednesday, we'll talk about that. But for today, just answer the 2 questions and start thinking about Earth Day. All right, have fun and stay curious.